That would be harsher punishments for parole violators, Stan. And world peace. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode number 86 of Movies Are Awesome, the show all about sculpting. My name is Nathan Pottle, and thank you so much for joining me today. And today it's December 1st. In basically now it's Christmas time, and Christmas is everywhere, and Christmas is everything. For me, anyways, a lot of people like to start to do Christmas before December. I like to wait until December. So today is December 1st. Earlier this morning, my wife and I, we got our Christmas tree, we set it up. This year we did a real tree, which was really nice. My house smells like Christmas, and that was really good. So there's a little Christmas update for you there. For anyone wondering, work is really crazy. It's really busy, like I said last week, but I'm actually feeling pretty good today. I'm not completely exhausted, so here I am sitting down to record, and today's topic is interesting. At least to me it is anyway. I was watching a movie last week and I was like, you know what, this is probably never going to get a sequel. And then it got thinking about movies that very clearly set up for sequels and then never got them. And there are a bunch of different reasons why that happened. Maybe the movie didn't make enough money. Maybe it's just not a very good movie. Or for any other reason, right? So that's what I want to talk about today. I've got 5 movies here that set up for sequels but never got them. It was a failed franchise before it even began. So yeah, 5 movies. I'm going to talk about them in order of release date. So let's get started. Number 1 is Super Mario Brothers from 1993. And this movie, it is just painfully bad. There are so many stories about the behind the scenes things and everything going on while this movie was being made. Apparently Bob Hoskins was drunk on set a lot of the time and really angry at everyone, and so that caused some tension on set. But they were trying to set up this franchise, and I think this is kind of coming off the backs of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies, and they saw what those were, and they were kind of popular, and so they were like, okay, let's do that, but with Super Mario Brothers. And it just did not work. I saw yesterday there's this Super Mario Brothers land that's opening in Japan, and they just released this press photo of it, and it looks amazing. Really in-depth, bright colors. It looks like the Mario games come to life. And that's kind of what I would want out of a Mario movie, as opposed to what we got here, which is really just 2 plumbers who are brothers, whose last name is Mario, and one of them's first name is also Mario. And it's dark and gritty, and the dinosaurs are dinosaurs, and they don't talk, and it's really not Super Mario Brothers at all. Like, the fact that they're plumbers and they go on an adventure, that's really it. There's a whole lot of changes here. It takes place in the real world, not in the Mushroom Kingdom. There's just so much against this movie that fans of the franchise were not happy with it. Regular moviegoers weren't happy with it just because it's not good. Nobody wants to watch a poorly made film, and nobody wants to watch a sequel to a poorly made film. And so I think that's a big part of the reason that this did not get a sequel, even though they very clearly set up for a second one. There's more story to be told. There's this big kind of cliffhanger type thing. And you know what? I don't even remember what that cliffhanger was. I remember that there was one, but it's been a long time since I've even watched this movie, and I have zero interest to revisit it. Oh, it must have been at least 10 years since I watched it, but all I remember is the very end of the movie, something happens, and it sets up the next one, and it just didn't happen. I think this movie did really bomb at the box office, made no money, and that's just because it's not good, like I've already said. So, Super Mario Brothers is one of those movies. It's part of a failed franchise. They tried to get something up off the ground, and it just didn't work. I think it's really hard when a movie is very clearly taking a template from another franchise and trying to apply it to their own thing. We've seen this happen in a lot of different things. Super Mario Brothers, it very clearly happens to. We've seen this happen with the Justice League and the Marvel movies. We've seen this happen all over the place, and it's not about taking someone else's formula and figuring it out. It's about figuring out what works for your franchise and going from there. So then that's what's going on, I think, is trying too hard to see what other people had done and then try to take their thing and make it your own. I think you just gotta make something your own from the start, and then that's how you're going to build a successful franchise. I will move on to my second one, though. My second one is Godzilla from 1998. Now, this movie is directed by Roland Emmerich, who you may know he is a big disaster movie director. He did The Day After Tomorrow, 2012, some other ones that I'm kind of blanking on. Don't remember all the movies that he's done, but he's mostly known for doing these big disaster movies. He might have done Twister, he might not have. He did one that came out recently, I think it was Midway. Did Roland Emmerich make Midway? Yeah, I think he did. I haven't watched it though. I hear it's kind of actually good, so I'm surprised at that. I might have to check it out. But Godzilla from 1998 is not good. And this one I do remember better than Super Mario Brothers because I've seen it more than once. And basically, it's Matthew Broderick. He's some kind of scientist, and he's living in New York. And there's these nuclear explosions going on, and this Komodo dragon turns into Godzilla, who then goes to New York and starts wreaking havoc everywhere. And then they set up for a big sequel at the end, a sequel that never happened. And basically, Godzilla plants a bunch of eggs, and they're trying to find where she hid the eggs, and I'm pretty sure she set up her nest in Madison Square Garden. So they go there, and they destroy all the eggs, except for one. One of the eggs survived, and Godzilla is dead, but Godzilla will live on in this new Godzilla who's going to hatch from the egg, and then that was going to start up this whole new franchise. Obviously, that didn't happen, because then we got the new Godzilla from 2014, which is actually really good, and then we had Godzilla King of the Monsters, which is pretty bad. I think a lot of people, though, negatively reacted to this movie specifically because of the design of Godzilla. She really just looks more like a dinosaur than anything else. Godzilla has a specific look, standing upright with arms forward, and this new Godzilla in 1998 was hunched over and very dinosaur-like and walking around. And did this Godzilla even have the nuclear breath? I'm not 100% sure. I don't remember that being a part of this Godzilla. Also, if I remember right, the characters, Matthew Broderick and the other actors, they're just not very interesting and don't have much going on for them. So it's this whole thing, right, of wanting to set up a sequel to a movie that's not very good. It's just not going to go well for you. It really just isn't a very good movie at all, and I am glad that we have these new Godzilla movies, and I think we're supposed to be getting King Kong versus Godzilla next year, or maybe the year after. I think it was supposed to come out in November of this year. Obviously, it's December now, so that didn't happen. Otherwise, I would be talking about it. And I don't even want to talk about all the movies I was supposed to have seen, but have not seen, and I'm so upset about it. Even December now, we're getting Wonder Woman, kind of. We're getting Soul on Disney Plus, so I'll get to watch that at home at Christmas time, so that's nice. But really, I'm not able to go out to the cinemas. And now in my city, we have some new restrictions going on, so our COVID numbers are going up. So I'm not going to get to watch as many movies this year. And when I get to the end of the year, I would really like to do a 2020 in review and all the movies that I've watched, but that's going to be a very short list. So I won't even really be able to do a top 10 favorite movies that I've seen this year, because I don't even think I've seen 10. I mean, I've watched more than 10 movies this year, but not 10 new releases that came out this year. So I don't know. How did I even get onto this topic? I don't know. Let's get back to my list here of failed franchises. That's what we're talking about. So Godzilla, it swung for the fences and really, really missed. My next one is from 2006. Now, this is an interesting one. This is Aragon. Now, Aragon is based off of a book series, a fantasy book series, which is written by Christopher Paolini. I have only read the first 3 books. There are 4. I've only read the first 3, and we only had 1 movie. Now, I have a lot of opinions about this movie. I have not watched it in, once again, must be over 10 years since I've watched Aragon. It came out in 2006, so I watched it right when it came out. I had already read the book, and this movie came out only 3 years after The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King, so standards for fantasy were very, very high. So unless you were Harry Potter, which started coming out before The Lord of the Rings, it really set the standard, and a lot of people had a lot of expectations for movies like this now, because when you look at a movie like Lord of the Rings that is so great, it's hard to compare when the next thing comes out and it's not as good. And believe me, Aragon is not as good. So in a post Lord of the Rings world, Aragon just doesn't work, especially reading the story. Now, I haven't read the book in a long time as well, but I remember reading this and thinking, this is pretty much Star Wars and Lord of the Rings blended together. Like, there is not a lot of originality going on in this story. It's all pretty cut and paste from other things that Christopher Paolini really liked, and I'm pretty sure he wrote Aragon when he was 19, so that would make sense that he's just taking from a bunch of things that he likes, which a lot of people do, because we all need to be inspired from somewhere, right? But generally it's not so blatantly obvious. So even when 13-year-old me went to go watch Aragon in the theater, I'm pretty sure I saw it in theaters, I can't remember for sure, but I went to go watch Aragon, and I remember thinking, like, it's not very good, and especially because I was all about the Lord of the Rings in my early teens. Like, Lord of the Rings was just my number one. It still is, really, but I was just such a Lord of the Rings nerd, and I knew all the stuff and the trivia and the facts and all of these different things. And so when I was getting new fantasy and I was very excited about it, and I was so supremely let down, I didn't even want to watch a second one, even if we would have gotten one, which we didn't, because this movie is bad. Not only is it really bad, but it really differs from the book, and so it goes off in a different direction, and the ending is completely different. So we don't even really know how the story would have continued because it was so horribly butchered. Like, I don't even know what would be going on in a sequel to that Aragon, because the story just doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't have anywhere to go that follows the next book. It would really have to twist and turn a lot in order to make things work. So maybe they were going for one movie, but no, they tease the next movie right at the end, because we see the big dragon. Is it Galbatorix, or has some kind of weird name like that? I don't remember, but there's some kind of large black dragon that is teased at the very end of the movie, and that's supposed to set up the next thing. So there we go. Aragon, really, it's just not very good at all, and it didn't deserve a sequel. It wanted one, didn't get one, and that's where we are today. Maybe this franchise will get another crack at it down the road, but I doubt it. There are better fantasy franchises out there right now. I'm reading one right now called The Stormlight Archive. If you haven't read it, it's fantastic. Book 4 was just released only a couple weeks ago, and I'm almost done it. So right when I'm done recording, I'm probably going to sit and read a little bit more, because I'm just really into that book right now, and I'm getting close to the end. So there's a lot of really good fantasy out there that could be made with the same love and care that Lord of the Rings was, but unfortunately, movies like this, coming out so soon after the Lord of the Rings, it was released in that shadow, and it was really hard for any movie to kind of break free of that shadow, with the exception of Harry Potter, which, like I said, already started coming out before 2001. I'm going to move on to the next one, though. What do I have next? The next one, Green Lantern from 2011. Now, this movie stars Ryan Reynolds. Taika Waititi is in it too, actually. Mark Strong. And Mark Strong is the big reason that this movie sets up for a sequel, because he's a good guy and then he turns bad. And we never really get to see him be the villain in the next movie, because we didn't get a next movie. Now, this movie, it looks bad, it sounds bad. I have mentioned it on the show before, but I have not watched this movie since I saw it opening weekend in theaters. I have not revisited it, because I watched it and I said, you know what? This is no good. When this movie came out, sandwiched in between the months, we had May of 2011, we had Thor come out, the first Thor, and then we had Green Lantern, and then in July 2011, we had Captain America: The First Avenger. Now, I really like The First Avenger, and I think that the first Thor movie is better than Green Lantern. So when I had those movies in succession, month 1, 2, 3, one of them was clearly worse than the others, and I didn't need to revisit it to say, like, oh, well, maybe I should give it another chance. No, this movie's bad. He's got a weird CGI suit. He's making jokes at weird times. We've got a weird dust cloud that he's fighting. This movie could have been really interesting and really good, but it really just isn't. And this, I think, is part of the reason that we haven't seen Green Lantern pop up in these Justice League movies yet. just because there's still that taint of this movie. And as of next year, this movie will be 10 years old. So maybe we'll eventually get something from Green Lantern, and maybe it'll be good this time around. But the very end of this Green Lantern movie is we see Mark Strong's character, and he's a Green Lantern, but then he gets a yellow ring, and he becomes a Yellow Lantern. And yellow is, I guess, the color of fear or something else. And I think green is the power of will, like willpower, I think is what's going on there. The different colors mean something. There's Green Lanterns, Yellow Lanterns, Red Lanterns. Or maybe Sinestro is a Red Lantern. Like I said, I haven't seen this movie in 9 years, so I do not remember at all. Very interesting. I've got no idea. Maybe he's yellow, maybe he's red. I don't know. Either way, we never got a sequel because the movie is not good. I am just cruising through this list here. So those first four, we had no sequels to them because these movies are not very good. This last one is the reason I made this list, and we haven't gotten a sequel yet. We may, but I feel like we're not going to, and that one is for Alita Battle Angel. Now, I surprisingly enjoy this movie. I just picked it up on Blu-ray the other day. It was like $9 at Costco, and I was like, oh, that's pretty good. So I picked it up and brought it home, and I rewatched it just last week, and I was just thinking, like, you know what? There's so much going on here. There's a lot of story being set up. There's a lot of world building going on, and we're just not getting the whole picture. And then obviously, if you've seen Alita Battle Angel, there's a villain at the end who's revealed who is a pretty famous actor. And then that sets up for the very next movie. And it's very cliffhangery and lets us kind of get excited for the next movie. And if you've been on film Twitter at all, you know that there's a big following of Alita Battle Angel out there clamoring for a sequel to this movie. And you know, if we live in a world where the Snyder Cut exists, maybe we can get an Alita Battle Angel sequel. Who knows? I don't know. I've got a whole lot of opinions about the Snyder Cut and its existence, and that maybe that's for a different time. But as far as Alita Battle Angel goes, I think it's a good movie. I find the main character to be interesting. I like the action. It's very good action. Some of the visual effects aren't amazing, but you know, I think overall it's a good movie. This is directed by Robert Rodriguez, the director who brought us Spy Kids and Shark Boy and Lava Girl. Also Machete Kills. So he's got quite a wide range. Sin City also is another one that he did. So Robert Rodriguez, he's all over the map. He likes to make movies for his kids to watch. He likes to make movies for adults to watch. And it's a whole thing. But this movie specifically, I felt, was enjoyable, and it was interesting, and the world was pretty well realized for the most part. I had a little bit of issues watching Christoph Waltz swing around this ridiculously large hammer. I don't think that he's able to physically do that. So that, like, I had a problem with that. But really, as far as anime adaptations to live actions go, I think this is probably the best one that I've seen. And I haven't seen a ton, like Ghost in the Shell with Scarlett Johansson. That one wasn't good at all. The Netflix live action Death Note movie is one of the worst things I've ever seen. So the bar is set very low. So when I was going into the movie theater to watch this movie, and I came out not hating it, I was like, oh, like, hey, this movie was good. I liked it. I didn't have high expectations, and it exceeded those expectations. So that's always a nice surprise. And because this movie came out only in 2019, maybe we will get a sequel, but nothing has been announced. It didn't make a ton of money. Not a lot of people saw it. So I'm feeling like it's a bit of a failed franchise, and we're not going to get to see a sequel for it. But oh well, that's okay. It doesn't. We don't always get sequels to the movies we want, right? So that's it, really. Wow, I plowed through that list. That's a fun short one. Why don't I run through these movies one more time of failed franchises? We had Super Mario Bros. From 1993, Godzilla from 1998, Aragon from 2006, Green Lantern from 2011, and lastly, Alita Battle Angel from 2019. So I'm going to turn it over to you guys now, and I'm interested to hear what movies that never got a sequel would you like to see a sequel to? I would love to hear that from you. You can feel free to reach out to me. You can find me on Twitter at Pottle Nathan. You can find the show on Instagram at Movies Are Awesome Podcast. And you can email the show at moviesareawesomepod@gmail.com. If you haven't done so already and you want to, feel free to subscribe to the show. You can do that on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and a whole bunch of other places. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. It really means a lot to me that people will sit down with me every week and listen to me talk about movies. So thank you so much for that. And as always, if you have nothing else to do, go watch more movies.